Welcome to the Komat Japan podcast, a series about real-life experiences in real-world Japan, hosted by Messi Sensei, JD, and yours truly, Andres. Moving forward, we talked about getting ourselves acclimated in Japan. We've talked about how we arrived, how we ended up with our, respective apartments. I think, Messi, you've talked a bit about that. I talked about my apartment. JD, did you talk about how you managed to acquire the living situation that you had during your time in Japan? At least when you got started.
I did not, but like Messi, I came in as an exchange student. So he said the kaikon, which is the dormitories for the exchange students. They're referred to as just the kaikon. We had a connection through our schools, right? So a lot of the paperwork it was just all this was done through paperwork. So as soon as we arrived, everything they understood what to do. They gave us a room. It was extremely cheap, extremely cheap. I think if I recall the building that I personally stayed at, it was only like $30 a month. Like what would it equal to nowadays to $30 a month just to stay there. After that, I did have to get, but they only let you stay there for a year. But some people get extra accommodation. They have families, etc. So yeah, you eventually do have to get an apartment. But a lot like you, I was able to get temporary apartments through friends, and I didn't end up doing any paperwork, but that was very temporary. And then, of course, I ended up having to get my own apartment, which was through the same realtor. That realtor came up in the previous episode. Just, I think, handled most of the
Foreigners there.
yeah, so she was easily able to get me an apartment. But yeah, she had to talk to the I don't think there's had ever been a foreign someone who is not Japanese at that apartment complex, and the owner was worried about it. So she did have to get him on the phone, and then she said even at that time I knew some Japanese because I was already 1 year in. So she was like, "Okay, talk to him a little bit." So yeah, we had to do that for a little bit, and when he realized "Oh, okay, I can at least say this," and he would understand, then he just let me move in. Yeah, and then he would talk to me all the time. He would not talk to any of the Japanese residents there. He would completely ignore them. But when it came to me, anytime he saw me, he'd go up to me and start talking to me. And yeah, just as time went on, I started to realize that, well, my Japanese also getting better and better. And I would go to different realtors. I had multiple apartments in Japan because I moved around a lot. I was switching jobs. I was moving around a lot. And I would talk to realtors, and they would take me to see the apartments in the countryside, as like we were talking about earlier, not earlier today, but in a previous episode. It was a lot easier to get the trust of people. I was never turned away in the countryside. And by countryside, I mean when I was in Gifu, when we were in Ichinomiya, even Nagoya. I just don't think there's, relatively speaking, anywhere near as many foreigners as places like Osaka and Tokyo. So I never experienced a single case where they turned me away. You hear this a lot if you watch a lot of YouTube-based Japan content about how you might get turned away for being a foreigner. I never experienced that. I was never close to experiencing that in the countryside. But as we all know, most people don't go to the countryside. Most people are going to end up in Tokyo or Osaka. And yes, as soon as I got there, first couple apartments actually were quite easy, and I got them without any issues. But as I tried to live in more and more places in Tokyo, I did get denied just for being a foreigner. And also, there were a couple of apartments that would actually give us surveys, okay, to survey your Japanese level. And they expected they expected to kind of deny you based on that, so they wouldn't appear to be discriminatory. But they would give you rate your reading level or your writing level, whatever, right? So by that time, by Tokyo, I would circle all maxes. Okay, I'm a 5 in all of these. So because I was prepared to, even if they wanted me to, I can read your contracts. We can get in the meeting, we can talk about this. And no, it was just oh, never mind. Even though you're very confident in circle 5s and all of these, we're still not going to give you the apartment because you're a foreigner. So that was pretty much my experience with looking for apartments and all that. Tokyo was hard, but countryside Japan was really easy, and it was really awesome.
Nice. So let's see, Messi, have we pretty much covered everything in terms of like getting started in Japan?
Yeah, I think so. We talked about how we got there and how we started life there, finding the restaurants around the university or places we live. I think so. I think we can move forward a little bit and maybe talk about how we end up leaving Japan, maybe, or what
Sure,
happened.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think were you the first one of us to leave Japan?
Yeah. So I started working in Tokyo.
Hmm.
And speaking of finding an apartment, it's harder, but I could
Hmm.
actually get a good apartment in Tokyo, and it was not that difficult for me. Yeah, so I moved to Tokyo. I worked 1 year there, but again, it's not that I didn't like Japan. I was trying to improve my my skills, my life quality, and advance
Hmm.
my career. So I was keep looking for a better position.
Hmm.
Of course, I found some good positions in Japan, but as you guys maybe know, that becoming a professor in Japan requires you to have at least N1 level or
Yeah.
even higher than N1 level language proficiency. So for me, it was not possible because I didn't have scholarships in Japan and I didn't have the privileges so many students have to
Hmm.
to get a scholarships and get more 6 months to 1 year time to study intensive Japanese. I had to go to Japan right away, start looking for a job, part-time jobs, and start
Hmm.
working. So for me, it wasn't an option to become a native in Japanese.
Hmm.
But also, what I was looking for initially was to either work in a very good IT company in Japan, which I started working in one. But also, I was always planning to become a professor in my field, which is, of course, computer science and technology and robotic. So I tried to go to Japanese universities, but they have very high quality and high demands in terms
Hmm.
of language. They need a lot of publications and so on. So I found it very difficult to do that in Japan. So I was like, okay, let me try other countries, right? Let me
Hmm.
see. Japan is always has a special place in my heart anyway, and Japan is not going to go anywhere anytime soon. So I should try to achieve my goals and dreams. And I've already achieved one of them, which was studying robotic in Japan, right? But then I started looking for positions that English is the requirement, not other languages. So yeah, and I end up finding a job abroad, and I started actually thinking seriously about, oh wait, I got what I wanted. Now what should I do? Should I leave Japan? I love Japan. What should I do? Then I start, challenging with myself about few months, and then I
Hmm.
said, okay, let me give it a try. I should get out of here. And that's where I realized that when I left Japan, I started appreciating Japan even more, right? So
Hmm.
then I left Japan and I started the career that I always wanted. It was like
Hmm.
life, a plan or dream, you could say.
Hmm.
So that's how I ended up leaving Japan. It wasn't like I wasn't happy to leave, but I was also happy to leave because of, I was
Like it was like
situations.
a bittersweet feeling.
Yes, yes. So I was like, should I do or not? And consulted with some of my friends and colleagues in Japan. And actually, this is very interesting. The CEO of the company that I was working for encouraged me, you must go. You live only once, and this is a lifetime opportunity.
Hmm.
You should get out of here. Okay. And you work for me, but I let you go and you should go. And he
Yeah.
told me to leave, and I was like very shocked and happy at the same time. Wow, this guy is
Hmm.
actually supporting my ideas and plans, right?
Hmm.
Usually when you leave a company, they're not very happy when you leave the
Oh yeah.
company,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
right? But
especially in Japan now. They expect like you to be loyal to them for life.
yeah, so I mean, this guy, this is the CEO. He actually supported me, and he was telling me, "You're great, awesome, wow, good job. Keep in touch when you go there, right? Let's work together in the future again." So I was very happy to hear that, and I heard a
Hmm.
lot of good, encouraging words from other colleagues and friends
Hmm.
who I had in
Hmm.
Japan. Also, I talked to JD. Anyway, this is how I left Japan, and
Hmm.
half of my heart stays still in Japan anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I definitely noticed like over the years as our friend, we had a lot of friends from Gifu University, and I feel like your story is definitely a similar story that a lot of foreigners share when they go to Japan. They're there for studying, they end up getting their master's or PhD, and ultimately they can't find work over there because they're not proficient enough in Japanese, and no one seems to be interested in hiring English speakers or prioritizing foreigners or anything like that.
I mean, we live only once, right? And I really wanted to
Exactly.
do this. So
Yeah, only have one life to live.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
and that was kind of the same case with me, where it's like, I was in Japan for a while, and by 2019, I feel like I had gotten the most out of, I got what I wanted out of Japan. I had gotten that life experience, that personal growth that I was looking for, and I didn't want to be teaching forever. I enjoyed it, but it's not something I wanted to do for the rest of my life. It was always going to be a temporary thing for me. But what I wanted to do in terms of like getting into more creative projects, which I had already started at the time. Also, I want to get more into like a more administrative field of work. And unfortunately, there was just no opportunities for me in Japan. With the very, very basic understanding of Japanese that I had at the time, because I never prioritized learning Japanese. I was more interested in learning about the culture and the people rather than the language, although I'm sure a lot of people might be confused because language is a part of culture, but hopefully you guys get what I mean for those of you listening. So yeah, so I wanted to take that. My goal was to take this experience with me back to America and using it to get myself ahead of the game, so to say, so to speak. But yeah, and also around that time, a lot of our friends were leaving Gifu. They had graduated Gifu University, and no teacher stays at the same school forever. Save for maybe one or two who genuinely enjoy doing this for a living. Which, hey, more power to them. But I felt like after seeing all of my friends eventually, go their own path, it's like now I feel like it's the time for me to eventually, be the one to take my turn in terms of moving on to bigger and better things out there. And those bigger and better things were not in Japan, unfortunately, as much as I enjoyed living there. Also, that growing sense of isolation started to affect me negatively, where I was lucky. Like, JD, I remember you mentioned to me that a lot of people tend to, like, for some people, foreigners who go to Japan, they usually like stay for maybe a year, maybe even less than a year before they get homesick and eventually go back to their home countries. And for me, I wasn't homesick initially. And thankfully, I was truly blessed to have been given the opportunity to have found so many friends like Messi to who pretty much like embraced me with open arms, and we just became fast friends. And I was just like introduced to this wonderful community of amazing people that I never felt homesick. I never felt alone. I never felt isolated. So it's like I was able to enjoy myself with the people around me, and I'm very thankful to this day that um I met so many amazing people. But like I said, over time, everyone eventually, moves on to other things, which is, hey, that's life. Life takes us all in different directions. And so by 2019, I think I might have been the only one who was still in Gifu, or the only one who was still doing the things that I was doing when I first came to Japan. And then COVID happened. And of course, COVID, Japan was really big on social distancing. Nobody could go anywhere. We were all stuck at home, a lot of restrictions at work. We started doing calls over Skype and Zoom for virtual classes. And so that sense of isolation that was already there in 2019, like I was ready to leave by the end of 2019, but I had agreed with my boss to stay at least one more year. And of course, that year happened to have been 2020. So obviously, by the end of 2020, I was like, there was no way anyone could travel internationally. So I was pretty much stuck in Japan for an additional year with 2021. And so by 2022, uh, it finally got to the point where people were able to at least fly from Japan to the US again. So at that point, I had really missed home. I missed my family. I hadn't seen my family in 2 years at that point. And I was at that point, I was like done. I was just done, not just with Japan, but just like COVID and all that stuff. It's like I just want to go home and just, be able to live life again. So unfortunately, it ended things on quite a sour note, but nope, no real, blame towards Japan at all. It's just, COVID affected everyone in a very negative way. And so it's like, again, I was already ready to move on. And then COVID just delayed those plans for quite a bit. And so I was just eager to just, finally move on to the next chapter of my life. And thankfully I have. And similar to Messi, part of me I felt like I left part of me behind in Japan. I feel like a part of Japan will always stay with me, and I believe that a part of me will always be there in Japan. Japan will always feel like a home away from home. And I've been lucky enough to go back to Japan and introduce a lot of my friends to the various things that I was lucky enough to have lived with. And hopefully, I do plan on going back to Japan hopefully, God willing, many times going forward. I probably will not live there ever again, but it will always feel like a comfort place. Like, again, a home away from home, a nice little place that I will always feel comfortable visiting every so often.
That's very funny because you were trying to escape from Japan, go to the US, and
Yes.
the exact same happened to me. I was trying to go back to Japan, but I got stuck. So
It's like we were. It's like that meme. We're on opposite sides of the gate. Let me in. Let me.
so yeah, that's very funny because yeah, I wanted to go to Japan to, to
Mhm.
refresh the memories and everything else and eat some good food and stuff. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, how about you, JD? I mean, we talk about something very interesting here because, yeah,
Mhm.
we never talked about the isolation and being lonely in Japan and,
Yeah.
depressions or all of this. I
Which
have
does
never,
happen to a lot of people out
yes,
there. I
yeah,
was just thankful enough that it never happened to me
yeah,
until many years later.
yeah. So I never wanted to talk about it because this has actually
Mhm.
never happened to me,
Right.
and I didn't want to talk about it. But if you guys have experienced any of this, please feel free to talk about it. Right? Yeah.
So the floor is yours, JD.
Um, I mean, if we're since you ended with that question, yeah, actually, and it leads to everything that I'm gonna say. All of this is it's conveniently connected. But yeah, I never once felt depression. Oh well, I mean, I did feel depression, but it was not because of isolation. So my entire goal, the entirety of Japan, which was basically stretched over 9 or so years, was to get as fluent as possible in Japanese. And what's interesting is that that fire, rather than die, it just grew. And it continued to grow. That's all I cared about.
Mhm.
So people, while other people were trying to go and visit other places in Japan, or hang out with friends, or just live their lives like a normal human being. I mean, that's what I probably should have done a lot more of. I hyper fixated on trying to get as close to a native as possible in terms of Japanese level, and that fixation kind of it just didn't allow me to think about anything else. Like I couldn't really think about like family as much, or I couldn't there's a lot of things I couldn't really consider because all I cared about the second I woke up was just how do I get better at Japanese. And another funny thing is that I had no idea how to even do that. A lot of my time and a lot of my money went to just textbook after textbook after textbook, most of which remain never used. I never used them. Even if I did use them, I would open them for 10 minutes and like stop using them. I would carry them around in my backpack and almost never really go through them. This went on for years. I was just obsessed, but I think I instinctively knew, like, when I opened this textbook, it's not doing anything for me. It's not doing what I wanted to do. How do I get better? And yeah, and I mean, I don't know if you can imagine this, but you'd have to really imagine like like a 6 or so year span of just someone doing this over and over and not really seeing too many results. It turned out that as soon as picked up like it's called a denshijisho, which is that's used throughout Japan. There's these little electronic dictionaries that you can like write on and draw kanji characters on and stuff, and it'll give you the vocabulary word. Or it goes between English and Japanese, because you can insert other language cards into it depending on it's made for Japanese people who want to learn other languages, but you could still use it like backward, like in the inverse way. You can uh use the English and Japanese back and forth to get meanings as well. So I would actually go around the entire city and just draw characters, and I ended up finding out that, oh, this is actually doing something. Whereas the text, I didn't realize it though at that moment. So I would continue with textbooks for years and years. Whereas just going around drawing the kanji characters, that's actually more effective. And I bought a PS3 while I was in Japan, and I set everything to Japanese, and that actually helped me way more than any textbook or anything. Just like we spoke in earlier episodes, like giving yourself a problem to try to solve. Like, oh, I want to play this video game, or I want to navigate these menus on the PS3. What do I do? Well, you're forced to learn those characters. You're forced to learn that vocabulary. I was forced to, and that ended up helping me way more in such a short amount of time. That was far more effective and efficient than any a textbook. But yeah, I just couldn't. Going back to the original question, I just couldn't really feel lonely, even during COVID. Even during COVID, it was like something like really took hold of me, and I have to figure this out. I have to figure this out. I have to figure this out. I have to get good at this language. I have to get good at this language. And then by COVID, I still wasn't good at the language. I think COVID was when I actually reached N1 level, like right at the start of it. And even at N1 level, I didn't feel like I was that good. People thought I was good. Like
Yeah,
I would tell
I
people I
remember.
had N1. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. I remember I sent you this meme where it's like, I need to surpass, what was it? And this is what it's like to surpass a level beyond N1.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
showed
that
a image of Vegeta powering up. And this is to
yeah, or
go
Goku.
even further beyond.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, definitely. That happened multiple times though. Like I felt that I needed to go further beyond. I ended up passing N2. Yeah, I ended up passing N2, which was interesting because so many people told me you're never gonna pass N2. Like you're never gonna pass in the amount of time that you think. Which I passed it in exactly the amount of time. Which was, I wanted to get it 2 years uh after having landed in Japan. Which exactly 2 years after I passed N2, which was there was probably some luck involved. But I realized, like, after having, because they tell you N2 is like the level that you need to get to be able to work in Japan or whatever.
Mhm.
So once I passed, so I was like so happy to pass N2, but then again, I I worked with at this is very very good that this happened, by the way. I was working at the public middle school in Japan, in Gifu City at the time, and I couldn't understand a single thing that my coworkers were saying. And I was like, "Hey, I have N2. What is going on here?" That's really what like fueled me for more Japanese. That's like really what kicked it off to like no to overdrive, where it's like, okay, I have to go way beyond this level, because I'm just like that. I was getting kind of depressed, like just hearing my coworkers, all of them were Japanese. I'm the only like ALT in there besides another ALT, but that other ALT, they didn't have these expectations for themselves. So I think a lot of the time they're probably looking at me and like thinking like, what is wrong with this guy? Like, why is he so obsessed with this? But they were also very good at Japanese, mind you. They just didn't. I think most people who were good at Japanese, I think they would get to like N2 level and be like, yeah, I'm good. This is great. Because they could understand most things that I guess I don't know what their expectations were, but I wanted to understand like everything or ever. Which
Want to
is
understand all the things.
yeah. which is yeah, I think linguists watching this, there's probably a PhD linguist in this who might watch this and be like, you're completely insane. That is an insane standard to hold yourself by. But that's just what I felt that I needed to do. It was based on the way my personality is, which a lot of it involves like quiet analyzation. And then if I do talk, a lot of the ideas that I'm going to get into, they could be more abstract. It requires more language ability, for sure. So like those are the kinds of things that I wanted to convey and express. So it did require pushing the envelope more. But yeah, it's just I couldn't even begin to think about yeah, COVID hits, right? And the normal reaction to that would be like, man, like I feel kind of isolated. I just did not care because all I cared about was I have N1 and I'm still not good. Like, what do I do? I did to get to, by the way, before I end this, to get to the N2 and N1 levels, what I essentially had to do was just watch anime, uh, with no English support. So I could put Japanese subtitles, like Japanese Netflix has Japanese subtitles for most anime. So that's a lot of what I would do is just watch anime, and I would have Japanese subtitles on in case I didn't know the words that they were saying. And of course, all my games were in Japanese. Oh, and yeah, eventually I did try to read a book or a manga. I did try to do that, and that really supercharged it to the point where, yeah, these examinations, even though I had no idea how to study for them, and I kind of do now, but I'm not like an expert in like teaching someone how to pass the JLPT. But I just couldn't ever understand how to pass like a JLPT test. So I basically had to just like make my reading really strong, and that's how I ended up passing. Like I after reading
Brute
about
forced it.
I brute forced I read 3 or 4 novels and brute forced my way through the N1, and that's how because yeah, I would have to actually actively try to um kind of create like a study guide for N1 now at my current level. I would have to go and research the N1 a little bit more. I would need actually I would need students. I would need subjects to go through the N1 material and basically, okay, which one don't you understand? What don't you understand here? I would actually need to go collect data of this sort because I don't know how, like, I guess you could go to a language school. I did. I went to a language school. I don't feel like any of those work, to be honest. So if we were to come up with a way to pass the Japanese language proficiency test, I would have to conduct a study for that, like my own personal study, and have multiple students with multiple struggles and multiple responses to these levels of N2, N1. I would have to gauge their Japanese, even on a conversational level. We'd have to really figure out what's going on here, right? But I don't know if people have tried to do that to this day. I don't really think they have. I don't know if I don't think this actually exists, but that's how I would go about doing it. So yeah, it's basically all I did in Japan was I went from English teaching job to English teaching job. I can't really think of a better word, a better expression for this, but just pretty much hell bent on learning the language. And after getting N1, that started to open a lot. I think with N2 there were already open doors, but there was just less of them. I wanted to originally become like a translator slash interpreter, and then I started to notice that so in order to do that, you have to have strong English writing creative skills as well. And I started to notice I actually don't have those. Like, I don't really care to write this. Like, I started to realize, oh, I'm kind of good just understanding what this says. Like, I don't care if you do. Kind of. I started to realize that yeah, I didn't necessarily want to put this into English. It can just stay in Japanese. Uh, so then that's when I did a couple interviews for translation, and then it just didn't work out because I started to notice really quickly I don't want to do this for a living. I do not care. I do not care to put this into English. I understand because all of it was like they were kind of like gotcha questions about, well, how would you say this in English? And it's like, okay, I can probably get someone who would know, like it was like a lot of creative type. You would have to be a creative in English to be able to write that out. And I was just, ChatGPT wasn't really available at the time, which I'm sure a lot of people use now. So I was just like, you know what? I don't care. Uh, I know that in Japanese, that's what this is, and that's good enough for me. So yeah, no more interpreting. Sorry, no more translation. And then interpreting, I never really, interpreting still sounds a bit interesting to this day. But then again, I'm not, I've just, once I got an opportunity to do IT in Japan, I just lost almost all interest in these like pathways of like translation and interpreting. I just didn't care. I fell in love with IT, which was like it was an old love of mine back from even high school, and I didn't
I
realize how
remember.
much yeah, right. And I just don't remember. I just had forgotten how passionate I was about that because I would see other people who were better, and I was 15, 16, and that would discourage me. Well, these people are way better than me, which means I'm not very talented, you know? So
Mm.
I probably shouldn't pursue this. That happened with drawing as well. I used to draw when I was like 9 and 10. I ran into someone who's much better, much better than me. And I gave up on drawing just because I witnessed, just for witnessing that. And the same thing happened with IT. I met someone who's much better at computers than me, and I just like, nope, I'm not at their level. This isn't for me. I have no talent. I was, and that is an absolutely terrible way to go about seeing things, and like comparing yourself to others like that is, I mean, yeah, it really did set me back for sure when it came to IT, and I had to do a lot of catching up in just the year, which I ended up doing, which was another big testament to how much I actually loved IT, that I was able to catch up in the field, almost basically catch up in a lot of ways in just 1 year. I didn't know how to use Windows 10 whatsoever because I hadn't touched a Windows PC in like 10 years, right? So
Mhm.
the last Windows PC I used was XP. So I get, like Windows Explorer. We didn't have Windows Explorer in XP. So I didn't know what that was. And I was working in IT and I didn't know what what an Explorer, like opening up an Explorer window was when I first started IT, which is insane. But yeah, I had to learn all this like really fast. It was sink or swim, and I sprinted in terms of swimming. I did Olympic style, uh, like laps when it came to IT, and then I just immediately realized this is for me. And that's when around that time. Oh, and at the same time, I got to use my N1 skills to learn business level Japanese, which was the biggest game changer up to then, because it essentially gave me the ability to work wherever I wanted in Japan using that kind of Japanese. It's just, it's like emails in Japanese. I can write them basically almost at the same level that Japanese people can. I just copying their templates for the past 3 or 4 years. Even right now, I'm back in the U.S., but I work for a company. Well, yeah, I work in IT, but I still have to write emails constantly in Japanese to people,
Mhm.
and read emails constantly in Japanese. Like, yeah, my job is like done like 75% done in Japanese, despite being in the States right now. And yeah, like so I kind of started drifting away, and like I would actually uh back in the past, I would think about, oh, what's this guy's Japanese level? What's this guy's Japanese level? I would care a lot about other people's Japanese ability. Now I do
Mhm.
not. I do not almost at all. And this is great because it's enabled me to yeah, there's a couple projects that I have in my head. There's a couple things I want to give back to the Japanese learning community. I want to try to change it. I'm not going to get into detail right now about how I want to do this, but I do want to make it easier for people to learn Japanese. I do want to make it easy. The sky's the limit. Like, I don't mind doing it in terms of just basic Japanese to all the way to business level Japanese. I don't feel like there's a lot of resources. We do have AI tools, but I mean, you have to be some sort of an expert to even be able to interpret the AI tool, right? Like, it's kind of like a
Mhm.
programmer. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, we're gonna have like AI replace programmers," which I think this is true. But in which way are they going to replace programmers? Well, in the way that they're actually going to replace programmers is that you're going to fire 9 programmers and keep one really good one, and he's going to use AI the
Mhm.
him program. So it's not, you still need a programmer to interpret the code. Like, you still need to check ChatGPT. You got to check to see if ChatGPT knows what it's talking about, right? So that's
Mhm.
what so you essentially, you have to do that with language as well. So you're always going to need someone, that works together with the AI tools to improve things. I'm sure like everyone in this, all three of us know this very well. in whatever field in our all of our respective fields and hobbies and interests. I think we all understand this. But yeah, so I eventually ended up leaving Japan basically for similar reasons as all of us in here, which is I felt like I hit kind of a cap in the IT world. It's way too much of IT is outsourced in Japan. It's basically done remotely from other countries because Japanese people are heavily reliant on other countries to do their IT for them, slash non-Japanese people to do their IT for them. So I felt like, okay, I don't know how far I can get here, and I'm really I'm having to compete at this weird level, like where I'm actually a lot better. I deserve a lot more pay. So I ended up leaving Japan to come to the States to learn more about IT and get my career skills up. But I do plan on later returning for sure. I do. Japan has gotten to the point where, I mean, my Japanese ability has gotten to the point where I do not feel like I'm at a disadvantage whatsoever in Japan. It does feel like that can just be my second home. I can do the same things that I could do here over there at this point. Like, yeah, I can go into an electronics store and set up like a like a cell phone contract, like nothing, set up internet, I go to a government building and read the government level Japanese documentation. Just about anything, right? That any sort of adulting that you could think of, I can do over there. So I just feel absolutely no anxiety over there. It's like, if you plot me in the middle of Japan, it feels the same as if you would plot me in the middle, with like my wallet and a cell phone. If you put me in the middle of Los Angeles or wherever, put me wherever you want in the United States, right? Put me wherever you want in Japan. It's the same. So that's like where I'm at. Sorry for the long talk.